Hello everyone and welcome to the SenseGlove for Unreal Engine tutorials. I am Mamadou Babai, an Unreal Engine developer at SenseGlove. In this video, we are going to see how to set up a basic SenseGlove Pawn and the virtual hands along with the basic functionalities such as grab, release, haptic feedback such as pause or force feedback. And what we are going to produce in this tutorial is already hosted on Microsoft Azure DevOps as an Unreal Engine project, which I'm going to show you where you can find it in a bit. But the most important thing here to mention is for this tutorial, you will need at least version 1.4.0 of the SenseGlove for Unreal Engine plugin, which we have pushed to the Unreal Engine marketplace around 2 weeks ago. By the time you will see this tutorial, probably you can get the updates through the marketplace. If not, there are alternative ways to retrieve that, which I will show you as we move along with the tutorial, and also how to make sure that you have the right version. As a side note, it usually takes between 24 to 48 hours before Epic approves the new update here. As you can see, it's still on pending, and the current release is 1.3.1, but we have already pushed the latest version, as you can see, and it's still pending approval. Anyways, it usually takes between 24 to 48 hours before Epic approves the new update, but this release coincided with Unreal Engine 5.2, and I guess since they had a very big release, it might be their summer break that causing the update workflow slow down. Anyways, before starting anything, let's navigate to the SenseGlove for Unreal Engine plugin landing page on the Epic Marketplace, where you can find all the resources to our plugin. If you just simply Google SenseGlove Unreal Engine, you should be finding this page in Google results. And once you come over to this page, there are a few sections here which I highly recommend to check out. One is the changelog that you can always follow for the even unreleased changes or the changes we've made between releases. Then there's the blueprint documentation, and also there are some examples like the basic C++ example, basic blueprint example. These are Unreal Engine projects that are hosted on Microsoft Azure DevOps repositories. And also this tutorial, blueprint demo, which is we are going to basically create in this video. It's already hosted on Microsoft Azure repositories. We will see in a bit. But also there are other tutorials that I highly recommend to watch before watching this video. Like some of them, for example, how to install the plugin itself through various distribution channels that we have, or the examples, or how to connect to the Nova gloves, for example, on Linux, if you are using Linux, or how to set up a virtual hand, importing the hand meshes, and things like that, or how to deploy to Android. I'm going to basically in this video briefly go through all these steps, but if you need in-depth, in-details tutorials, you should always check the other ones out. And I'm going to put the link to this tutorial also at the end of this list. But anyway, let's first grab the latest version of the plugin, because right now I cannot retrieve it from the Epic Store as it's not already published by the Epic. But anyway, as you can see, this is the latest version I'm using for this tutorial. And as I said, you need at least 1.4.0. And this is the current release I'm using. Anyway, how to get the latest release of the plugin? just click on this changelog, and if you click on this changelog, Epic is going to warn you. You are going to basically navigate a link that is not on their website, which is safe. You could just click continue browsing. And here, as you can see, I'm on the dev branch and inside the changelog. But anyway, I'm going to click on the left side. I'm going to click on files. And here I'm going to make sure I am on the branch that I'm going to basically use the plugin with the version of the engine that I had in mind. Right now, I did create this tutorial in Unreal Engine 5.2, but it's very similar to the other one. And also, please note that there's a platform support matrix. If you need basically version 1.4, you need at least Unreal Engine 4.27, 5.1, or 5.2. And please note that also Epic has a policy to only allow code plugins for the last 3 stable version of the engine to be published on the Epic Marketplace. So that's why we cannot publish updates for Unreal Engine 4 anymore on the Epic Store. So you should always come and take the update for Unreal Engine 4.27 from Microsoft Azure. Otherwise, you cannot get it. The one that you are getting on the Epic Store is really too old. And also, please note that because Epic basically pulling the plug on Unreal Engine 4 and they don't support it anymore. As I said, they only support the last 3 versions of the engine for code plugins. We are probably going to drop Unreal Engine 4.27, and this is going to be the last version that supports Unreal Engine 4. But anyway, make sure that you choose the right branch. I'm going to basically use 5.2. And from here, I'm going to click on download as zip. And once I do that, I'm going to basically, let's create a folder here and call it real. And here, I'm going to save this. Okay, I guess it takes a bit. Anyway, until that is downloading, now I'm going to basically grab the tutorial we are going to make, and I will have a copy because it will be handy during the tutorial to take a look at, and even before I start the tutorial to see what we're going to make and also test the plugin. Coming back to the landing page of the Unreal Engine SenseGlove plugin, I'm going to create this link here under the examples and demo projects. And once I do that, again, I'm on Microsoft Azure. And please note that we did create this for Unreal Engine 5.2. And this is the version that is going to be compatible. You cannot open this since Unreal Engine is only forward compatible for binary assets. You should probably be able to open this in newer version of the engines unless there's a breaking change, but you cannot open this on the older one. So again, I'm going to click download as zip, and I'm going to save it here, SenseGlove Unreal SG Basic Demo, and it's just done. Now, I have all the required files. Let's go see. Okay, now, the first thing that you should know, once you download the project, the sample project here, there's a plugins folder because for the development purpose, we always keep the plugin as a Git sub module. If we are going to directly check this out using Git, with the command that is mentioned here. With this command, it's going to automatically download the Unreal Engine plugin for us. But right now, we just use the download functionality. We didn't use the Git to check it out. So that's why we have to do some extra step. Otherwise, we are going to get a builder once we are going to open the project. So it does not matter if you get your plugin through Asset Store or if you are downloading it through Microsoft Azure. You have to do this step always once you want to download this demo. But anyway, I'm going to basically open it to see directory structure. Okay, I have to extract it in a folder. Otherwise, I'm going to get a lot of files. So extract it here. And I'm going to name it just SG basic demo. That's nicer. And also I'm going to extract the plugin to a folder. Fix it. Okay. Once that is done, I'm going to also rename this to SenseGlove. It should be the name SenseGlove because the plugin name is SenseGlove, and Unreal Engine, once it looks for it, is going to look up by this name. So I'm going to basically inside this folder SG Basic Demo, and if you open this file, this is basically a shortcut to the basically this is a commit hash on our SenseGlove repository. So you have to delete this because it's meaningless to Unreal Engine. It should be a folder containing the plugin. So I'm going to delete that once more. We come here into the SG Basic demo after extraction into the plugin, and we remove that file. Anyway, we are going back to the tutorials folder. This is the plugin that we have downloaded. I'm going to cut this. And if you download this through the Epic Launcher, we already did create another tutorial for you how to get it from Epic Launcher and extract it here. This is plugin installation guide for Microsoft Windows, and also there's one for Linux. So that has already been covered. Right now I'm working just with one of those approaches of retrieving the plugin. But if you want to do it the other way, you have to go check out the tutorial. Anyway, I'm going to paste it here, and I think we are good to go. Now, only I have to come here and find the SG Basic Demo U project. This. And open it. Because this is the first time that we are opening this project, and I did not downloaded this through Epic Launcher. That's why it's going to ask me to rebuild the project. If I was going to retrieve it through Marketplace, I didn't have to do this. This step was not necessary, but right now it is. So it might take a bit because it's building in the background, and we have to wait. And as you can see, some folders like binaries, intermediate, saved are being generated for us. And even if you open your task manager and here you'll see CPU working hard. And even here, yeah, it's opening on my first monitor. I'm waiting for the engine. Okay, now we have it. Now let me first connect my glove. We already have tutorials for these, so I'm not going details with this one. But anyway, let me wear my glove, and it's a left-hand glove, and I'm going to turn it on. It probably takes time for it to be recognized. If not, you could always come here. It says it's paired. Let's remove it. I'm going to pair it again. It says, do you confirm this code? I said yes. Now it should be connected. And here you go. You can see and recalibrate it. You can always recalibrate the glove by clicking on calibrate and basically making it fist. And okay, now my glove is calibrated. Also, I need my Oculus Quest to just be able to enable the VR preview button. As you can see here, the VR preview is disabled. There are two ways actually to test this out. One is to deploy to Android. Basically, you connect your device using a USB cable. We are going to also see that. And also, in addition to that, you could install or set up the Quest link and use the VR preview. But if you want to basically deploy to Android, in this video, I'm going to also explain how you can do it. Although we already have other tutorials for that as well. But I have to basically connect my Quest link and wait for a bit. It's usually you have to, after connecting using USB, there's a prompt that appears on your headset. You have to confirm this, and once that is done, you should be able to basically deploy this to Android as well. But anyways, we don't want to do that. We only want to just use the Quest link. So I'm going to disconnect the cable. And here I want the VR preview button, so I have to launch the Quest link on my Oculus Quest. And once that is done, as you can see here, the Quest application on Windows, it's going to pop up. And now I should have the, yes, VR preview mode. Okay, now let's see. Okay, now as you can see, this is my hand along with the tracker. Basically, there's a bunch of grabbable objects that I could grab or move them. And also, I don't know if you heard the noise. I see some haptic feedbacks in the form of force feedback and buzz feedbacks. And also I can grab it and I feel it, I feel the object inside my hand. And once I open my hand, I'm going to release it. This is basically the tutorial that we are going to create in this. This is the project that we are going to create in this tutorial. And as you can see, I can basically grab different objects or release them. So this is it. Okay, now back to our tutorial. We are going to create this from scratch, but you can always come to this project and use it as a reference. Okay, and also maybe there's something else that is going to be useful. And if you come to the SG SenseGlove Unreal Basic SG Basic demo, and you can always go to the root of the project here and the file section, and you can always take a look at the history. Basically, what we are going to do in order to create this has been separated into a few commits. And as you can see, I just start from scratch, create a blueprint, empty project, and so on and so forth. I'm going to basically explain these steps to you. Anyway, now let's pop up Epic Launcher. I'm going to run the Epic Launcher. I'm going to basically go to the library, launch Unreal Engine 5.2. Of course, you can do this with the other versions of the engine because the current project on Azure is only compatible with this version. So here, I'm going to go to the tab, Games tab, and here create a blank project. It says in which folder. I'm going to use the tutorial folder here, and basically I could name it anything, my project, or let's call it SG tutorial. This is the name I'm going to give it, but it's basically the same thing as this SG basic demo. But anyway, let's go back. I'm going to also create a blueprint project. You could choose this as target platform as desktop, mobile, or whatever you prefer. And we don't need the starter content for this one, and so we don't need the ray tracing. So I'm going to create a empty project. And once that is done, I have like this map here. Then I'm going to need a few more things. The one thing I need is to enable the SenseGlove plugin. And as you can see, I don't have the SenseGlove plugin here because I didn't install it through the launcher. If I had it through Epic Marketplace, I could have like checked it here. So I have to first close the project. I have to basically either copy it from here, or I could basically extract it again and copy it to that folder. I can go through it again and basically say extract to SenseGlove Unreal. This takes a while. And here I'm going to name it SenseGlove. I'm going to cut it, basically Control X or cut. And here I'm going to create a plugins folder with P capital. And I'm going to paste it here. Now, once I open the project again, remember we did close it. Again, we see this pop-up. It says, do you want to rebuild? I say, yes, it's going to build it for us. And remember, sometimes some versions of the engine sometimes have problem rebuilding the plugin, not just our plugin, any plugin. For blueprint projects, the solution is to, so you can create a new C++ project. Again, you copy the plugin to the plugins folder. Unreal Engine will always ask you, do you want to build it? And it works. And then you can copy it to your blueprint plugins folder. That's one way if Unreal Engine cannot build it for your blueprint project, so you can make it work this way. But it's always nice to just directly check them out from the marketplace of plugins if the latest version are available. Okay, now the project is open. I have to head to the edit plugins. It's always like that. And if I look up SenseGlove, as you can see, this is enabled. And if it's not enabled, you have to enable it, and it asks you, do you want to restart? You say yes, you need to restart your editor. But anyway, it's already loaded and it's already enabled. So I did enable it. And once I do that, basically, if I open this inside the text editor, the main U project file, I should be basically it should add it to here, but it didn't anyway, because if you open the basic demo project, you can see it here. It's been added by Unreal Engine. You can always manually copy that and add it to here, or probably if we enable and disable it once and close the editor, it's just going to enable it. Anyway, right now it's enabled and loaded. I don't care. But also in addition to that, there's like the modeling tool, I guess. I don't need this plugin. As you can see, it was already enabled here inside the U project file. I'm going to disable this. Probably it's going to do it for us. Reboot. Yeah, it removed it, and it didn't even bother to enable the SenseGlove plugin. Maybe one time we disable it, the next time we enable it, it's just going to probably add it. Let's go back. Enable it. Reboot. Okay, it didn't add it. Probably because we didn't use anything from the SenseGlove plugin yet. That's why it didn't add it, but I think it should be added. Anyway, let's go back. Now check one more time. SenseGlove plugin is added. Also, please note that you need one more thing, and that thing is the OpenXR plugin. As you can see, it was already enabled for me here. If you don't do that, you don't basically use OpenXR. Even if you deploy it to Android on Oculus Quest, the game is going to run as like a flat window. It's not going to be immersive. Basically, it's not going to start in VR. And usually it's because of the OpenXR plugin on the newer version of the engine, and on the older ones like 4.27, you also have to enable the Oculus plugin for Unreal Engine for it to work. But right now for Unreal Engine 5, we just need the OpenXR. So I'm going to, as you can see, it's already enabled here. But anyway, now I have everything that I needed, like the OpenXR and also the SenseGlove plugin. Nice. So let's go back to the changelog. As you can see here, I did the same thing, enable the SenseGlove Unreal plugin. Also, now I have to make some basically plugin project settings in order to make this right. One of those settings is actually the start in VR, because if I don't do that, once I deploy it to Oculus Quest, it might not basically start. Anyway, here inside the SG tutorial, I'm going to basically inside the, if you go here, edit project settings, this window should appear. And under the project, inside the description, you are going to have the start in VR. You have to check this. If you check this, and if you have the OpenXR plugin, then once you deploy to any headset, it's just going to start in the VR mode. Also, there are some other settings that we have to basically do. One of them is anti-aliasing method. It's, I guess, in the rendering section. If we don't do that, we usually, if you can ignore it, but I usually get some artifacts on the hand animation. So that's why I just prefer to change this. And what was the setting is basically, we could look it up because I don't remember it exactly. It says anti-aliasing method here inside the default settings here. probably in the rendering, there should be a default setting if I can find it. If not, we could always look it up here. And basically, instead of these two, I'm going to put it on TAA, temporal anti-alias. So I don't get those artifacts around the hand. This is one solution to solve that. But also, in addition to that, if I'm going to deploy to Android, I have to make some changes. And if we take a look at the plugin here, I'm sorry, if we take a look at the commit, this commit here, you see it just like makes a lot of changes here. And I'm going to go through the most important ones for deploying to Oculus Quest. I'm not going to explain it because I guess we already did that here. We have explained these settings. If not, there are plenty of tutorials on YouTube. You could basically go watch, or you could always consult the documentation. Why do you need to do those settings? For now, I'm going to disable the mobile HDR here. Let's check mobile HDR, and as you can see, it's inside engine rendering. By default, it's true. I'm going to set this to false. It says, do you want to restart? Not now. I'm going to restart, but once I'm done with all the other settings, basically this one, I guess it's okay by default, whichever setting is that. We are going to check it. But anyway, there are some Android settings in the section platform Android. Also, there's one important one, which is called default touch interface. Default touch interface. This is basically going to draw some input, like a joystick on the on your Android screen. I don't need that, so I just like hit clear button. So it's going to clear it for me. And now I guess the most important thing is going to Android SDK. You have to set up your Android SDK. We already have covered that in another tutorials, but the most important thing for Oculus Quest 2 is to put these two settings to Android 29. And all the other settings, it should refer to your SDK, NDK, and Java development kit. But anyway, there's an Android section here. I'm going to first name this SenseGlove.sg, whatever you are going to name it. It's just the name on the name of the package on Android. Then you are going to hit configure now. Here also you have to click configure now. And in addition to that, here you have to basically set the API to 29, and also you have to say package game data inside APK. This is necessary. Also, one more thing that is necessary for the SenseGlove plugin is to check use external folder, because we are going to basically save the hand profiles from the glove inside this location. So you always have to basically make this enable this. I could cheat the rest of it from the project settings here because I don't remember it all. But anyway, as you can see, we already did that. Oh, we could also disable verify OBB. This is going to speed things up a bit. Okay, and then here also, I remember I had trouble sometimes. The basically game was not going to run in VR mode. It's good to have both Vulkan and OpenGL ES3. So both of them are enabled now, as you can see inside the SG tutorial. That's one thing to always check with different versions of the engine. And also, let's right click here, say expand all. Okay. And also, yeah, we have to package for Oculus mobile device and remove the signature. These two are also necessary. Let's expand all. Okay, we have to check remove Oculus signature file, and also we have to enable Quest 2. I'm not going to basically add Quest. I'm going to add Quest 2 because I have a Quest 2 device. For Quest, it's a different setting, also with the SDK and NDK version. But anyway, let's go back. And I think we are good to go for the rest of it. I think we should be to go. And also you have to click the configure for here. Basically, it's just going to, these two are going to create for us a manifest file and a bunch of other like Gradle files and things like that to build for. But I guess everything now is good. Otherwise, you can always, if you have problems, you should match like everything with the SG Basic demo we did put on Microsoft Azure. We carefully basically did choose these settings and successfully deployed and tested it on Oculus Quest. Anyway, I'm going to restart the project. And once that is done, I should be having similar settings in here inside config. Probably it's default engine. And you can always match this with the one on the basically Microsoft Azure repositories here. You can view the full file here and basically match it with this one. But anyway, this is the changes I'm going to get after applying those settings. And it's usually these settings that are going to work. And you can always come here once your Quest is connected by USB and deploy it to it. But anyway, now I'm only using VR preview. I think we did basically set up the basics. Okay, now one more thing. This is the last thing from the basics. After that, I'm going to set up the virtual hand. The thing is, once you deploy to Android, it's just going to deploy to Android without any issue. But once you start the project on Android, it's going to fail. Basically, it's going to complain. It says, as you can see, I did even put it on the commit message here. It says, failed to load the SenseGlove Android module. It's not able to build the SenseGlove Android module inside the Blueprint project, and that's an Unreal Engine bug. So how you can solve this, basically, if you come back here, you don't have a source folder here. You have to convert your project to a C++ project. And we already covered that, I guess, in this tutorial in detail, why you need it, and also on Unreal Engine 4.27, I guess. But here inside Unreal Engine 5, you can always come to the Tools menu. And by adding a C++ file, one C++ class, it's just a dummy class to a project, you can convert it to a C++ project, and it's going to be fine. If you at any time get the fail to load Unreal SenseGlove Android on Oculus Quest for your Blueprint project, this is the solution. So you go to the Tools, New C++ class, and here just choose none and basically give it whatever name you want. I'm going to give it dummy class, and I'm going to create a class. In Unreal Engine 4, it's in the file menu. From file, you choose new C++ command, but in Unreal Engine 5, it's always from the tools menu. It takes a bit, and it says, okay, you have to build the source inside your IDE. Okay, it says, would you like to edit the code now? I said no, because I don't need to pop up Visual Studio Rider. So basically, I'm going to close the project. As you can see, it just generated a Visual Studio solution for us. I don't care. I just open the project. It says, would you like to build them? Because now our main game module is basically a C++ module. Now you should be able to run on Oculus Quest as well. So this was the solution. Now let's proceed to basically add the virtual hand assets. Again, we also have an in-depth tutorial for that. This one, like I guess it's around 50 minutes, going into detail with everything on how to basically create a virtual hand, like import a virtual hand model from Unreal Engine VR template, and basically even you should be able to use it in Unreal Engine 4.27. Okay. Now the project is loaded. I want the virtual hand. Where can I get the virtual hand? You have to basically create the model or buy those assets because the SenseGlove plugin at the moment is not shipping any virtual hand by default, but you could always create your own or buy your own from any asset stores. But there are generally a few things that you should remember about the rigging structure of the hand. For example, it should use Unreal Engine skeleton. People who basically rig for Unreal Engine or create animation are usually familiar with that. But if you are not, hopefully Unreal Engine 5.1 and 5.2, they ship two models for the virtual hand. One is a male hand, the other one is a female hand. You can always use that, and you can always export those and re-import those into older Unreal Engine version. In order to get that, let's first launch another instance of the Unreal Engine, and basically we are going to create like if we come here and it says virtual reality, you could always come here and basically I'm going to call it VR test, and after doing that you are going to just create. Okay, this is another project, and as you can see, if I come here into the characters, into the mannequin XR, here inside the meshes, you see like this one, Manny and Queen. Manny is a male hand, Queen is a female hand. Basically, what you can do is just choose these skeletal meshes for the left, right, and basically you could export them. But there's also another way. If you are, for example, migrating from this version of the engine is also Unreal Engine 5.2. If you want like the nice hand with all the materials and everything, you could come here always and basically choose these folders and right click and just click on migrate, and it's going to select all the assets for you, all the required assets like material, meshes, and textures. And once you press OK, you basically have to go to tutorial inside the SG tutorial and the content folder and select the folder, and it's going to copy everything for you into the new project. But as I said, Unreal Engine is not backward compatible with older versions of the engine, so I'm not going to do it this way. I'm going to do it the other way. We are going to only export the hand meshes because I assume maybe some of you want to do it in Unreal Engine 5 or 4.27. So this was the easier approach. Just choose the content folder and select, and it will be over. But what am I gonna do is basically I'm going to export these from 2 meshes. I only need 2 of these because I don't need the other hands. So I'm going to choose Mani left and Mani right. I'm going to basically asset actions, export, and I'm going to desktop tutorial. Here I'm going to choose FVX, and I'm gonna choose keep everything as default. Export. And asset actions, I'm going to basically keep everything as default. Again, export, and voila, it's done. Now I can just close this and just go back here. I'm going to basically inside the content folder, I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to mesh, and here I'm going to choose import and folder up here. I'm going to just choose the left one, everything as default, the import. Okay, now as you can see, it just created a it just gave me the left hand mesh and also some other assets. One of them is the mesh itself. If you open it, here, as you can see, I have the mesh for the left hand, and also in addition to that, I have the physics asset, as you can see here, and also I have the basically this is the skeleton, and we have things to do with the skeleton bit, we will see. But anyway, this is the hand meshes, and also it just set up a material for us. And also I'm going to, again, maybe it would be best to just delete these and re-import everything together. Import all. Okay, now nice. It just created one material for all the skeletons and things like that. But anyway, I'm going to also create a material folder, material, and inside I'm going to move this to here. Always remember, after rename or move, you have to fix up redirectors. You don't want any errors. So in the basic color, I'm going to this. Yeah, that is good. Yeah, now I like the hands like they are cyan or blue. But anyway, I think it's good. Now I have the left hand, the right hand, everything. But if you always go back, now I don't need this VR test anymore. If you go back to the SG basic demo, I did basically create the material with this name for the virtual hand, and also for the meshes, I renamed them to this naming, using this naming convention: virtual hand left, virtual hand left, and virtual hand left or right. The SK is the skeletal, physics is the physics material, and scale is the skeleton. But yeah, that's the way that you could basically make the import the hands. But also you could also do one other thing, like I want to delete this, force delete. And if you don't want to import the hand, you can always use the other approach, like the migration. I'm going to delete these, and I'm going to basically delete this, and I'm going to migrate these 2 folders from here, from the SG basic demo, and I'm going to choose migrate. as you can see, it just I don't need the grabbable because I'm going to create it. But anyway, this is all the assets for the hand. If you want to take it from the SG Basic demo, instead of exporting and importing, you go to the SG tutorial, you go to the content folder, choose, and now if we go back, we should be having the virtual hand meshes. Yeah, everything is set up. I guess we had to only open it. If the mesh is not right, you can always click on the preview and choose the right mesh anyway. Now we have the hands set up for us. But anyway, yeah, basically, also, I had to do some setup on the skeleton because I did copy this from the SG Basic hand model. It already did that. I already did that, and you don't have to basically set up those. As you can see, like we added some sockets here and did put them in a certain position. I will talk about this. But yeah, this is the good thing about like migrating it to your project because you already have the sockets and everything in place. But anyway, I'm going to show you how to set up those sockets. If you go back, the next step was to basically add the virtual hand assets. Now is basically the next step is to set up the SenseGlove game mod, player controller, and pawn. So here I'm going to create like a new folder. I'm going to call it blueprint. And also I'm going to create another folder for the map. And I'm going to call it maps. I don't like this map, so I'm going to create a new level. The basic is good. I'm going to save this. Basically, I'm going to call this overview. And yeah, I think it's good. Save one more time. Now inside the blueprint. Okay. For any project that is using the SenseGlove for Unreal Engine, you should first create like a blueprint class, and you should go to all classes, type SG game mod. Basically, you are going to subclass the SG game mod base class, and I'm going to call this BP SG game mod. And this is a subclass of SG game mod base. As you can see, it says it's a subclass of SenseGlove.SG game mod base. You need this because it's going to set up a few things for you. It's going to basically set up the pawn and the controller. We have to also, we could leave it at default. It's going to basically use the default C++ classes. As you can see, it's going to use the SG player controller instead of Unreal Engine's player controller, and it's going to use the SG pawn. By default, these are the C++ classes. But we also, as you can see here, inside the basic demo, if we go to the blueprints, here I did subclass the SG pawn, name it BP underline. That means it's a blueprint class, BP underline, SG player controller, and SG pawn. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to create a blueprint class, SG player controller. I'm going to call it BP SG player controller. And I'm going to create another blueprint class, SG pawn, SG BP, and here basically I am going to choose this is the C++ class coming from the plugin, but here the one that I use BP underscore, I'm going to choose those ones for the pawn as well. Then I'm going to click compile, save, and once that is done, I'm going to save all the others. Okay, now we have the SG pawn. And also I have to do one more thing inside maps and mods. I'm going to choose the overview map as the default editor and default game map. That one necessary step that you take. Also, if you are going to run the game, it's not going to work. You have to choose the BPSG game mod as the game mod here. So these are the important things to remember. In addition to setting the map to the current map, we have to, for the SenseGlove to work, this is the only setting that you have to change. You have to basically choose the default game mod, either the C++ SG game mod base or the blueprint one that you created. This one, which actually is going to give you control, because you can always here choose which classes to use. Anyway, so this is done. If I'm going to run the game, I should be basically, if I like run the game, I should be seeing inside the world editor outliner. You see, that's it. Once the game mod is spawned, it's going to spawn the player and also the player control. But anyway, you could also just basically, if you go here inside the, I guess it's window, place actors. Yeah, that's it. Basically, if you go to the window, place actors, here you are going to type player start, and wherever you choose this player start, basically your SG Pawn is going to be spawned there. I'm going to add one to the scene, and also because I want to basically put some objects around it. Yeah, because I don't want to like write the teleport functionality or things like that. I want my player to be spawned in a specific place. So I'm going to make this 0, 0, and the height is good. Okay. Anyway, now let's save everything. And yeah, it's working. Now, if we go to the SG Pawn class, there are quite a lot of things here. So you will basically, if you come here, you get a lot of these things. What are these? It's just like maybe you think it's too much or something, but yeah, these are the necessary things that we have to set up. Not necessarily, you don't have to set up everything, but there are a few basic things that you should set up correctly. One is you go to the left hand here, and basically here you could select the mesh, and I'm going to select the SK virtual hand left for this one. And as you can see, it's just showing the left hand. And for the right hand, again, the same thing. I go to the mesh, I'm gonna select the right hand. And also, as you can see, the hand right has like a check mark here, has right. And also the left one, it has unchecked. And now if I compile and save, and if I go back to overview, you even here see the hands. And once you start to play the game, because as you remember, I did connected the glove using the left hand, and it only shows me the left hand. So it's not going to show me the right hand because the right hand is not connected. But if for some reason you need it, you need to always show the technical project settings, plugin, also editor preferences. I don't need them. If for some reason you want the hand to show up, you can always uncheck hidden in game if glove not detected. Basically, if it's not going to detect the glove, if you uncheck this, it still shows the glove. And let me just move the fingers a bit. As you can see, the screen is just going to, and of course we are not in the VR preview mode. This is just a flat window of the game. Now I'm moving the thumb, as you can see. But anyway, for the right hand, it's just there, but it's not doing anything because no glove is connected. So that's why this option exists. If you want the hand always, you can uncheck it. If you don't want the glove when it's off, you can basically yeah, leave it as checked. Anyway, also there are wrist trackers here. If you, for example, let me show it in VR preview mode. I have to launch my Quest link because it's in standby mode. The Quest link again. Okay, now again in the VR preview. Okay, as you can see, this is the hand. I'm moving it in the basically in the wall, but I want to also see the controller. How can I do that? You can basically enable it in the wrist tracker. So I'm going to end the game here. And if I go back to SG Pawn, select the wrist tracker for the left hand. I can always, there's one more setting we have to do because now I want to first show it. If you check display device model and compile and save, I'm only doing this for the left hand. If you want for the right hand, you have to go to the wrist tracker right. But anyway, now let's go back to the VR preview. We will get the controller, but it's in the wrong location because by default, it's the plugin does not assuming anything. You have to basically go back here inside the wrist tracker left. There's an option in the SenseGlove section. If you always type SenseGlove, it should be over. This one is not in the SenseGlove section. It's like in the override plugin settings. It says override plugin wrist tracker settings. And if you check that, go back. I'm going to show everything here. Yeah, it's this option here, override plugin wrist tracker settings. Here, you have to choose Quest 2 controller. At the moment, this version of the plugin, it only supports Quest 2 controller because our core libraries has been written originally for Unity. That's why the coordinate system is different. And at the moment, the coordinates that is written for Vive Tracker, Oculus Touch, or Pico, Neo, they are all wrong. Only Quest 2 controller works. But you can always calculate your own using the custom basically field. It's there to basically for you to just using trial and error, you are going to fix this. But soon we are going to make another release that is going to address this and make all other controllers work. For now, it's only Quest 2. So I'm going to save it. And here, if I go to the VR preview, now I should be able to, as you can see, I've got the nice hand and everything has been set up for me correctly. Now I don't have a right hand, I only have the left hand. Anyway, let's go back. And if there are other settings that we should be doing. Okay, what are these other things? Like they are attached to the hand mesh because we have a camera, we have like a wrist tracker, which we saw what wrist tracker is doing. We have to also have the hand mesh. And also we have some colliders here. These are the colliders that are going to basically be used for touch or as you can see, they automatically find the fingertip and they attach to it. Of course, we did set them up by default. These colliders are really big. You can just reduce the size. I will show you how to do that. But anyway, the thing is like we did it because we want the easy grab, but you can always adjust it for your own needs. For the touch functionality, which is going to use the pause command, and also for the basically force feedback and For the grab release, you could always adjust the size, but it's, I guess, now around 8 centimeters. So it just works with a good approximity around objects. Anyway, as you can see, for like the right hand and left hand, there are some colliders. Some of them are called touch colliders. Some of them are called grab colliders. The touch colliders are going to interact with something called touch components, SG touch components, and the grab colliders are something that are going to work with the basically grab component. And for the grab, actually, we have the thumb, the index, and also the middle fingers colliders. We don't have one for pinky or the ring finger. But for the touch, we have like 5 colliders for every finger one. So in total, you should be having like 8 colliders, 3 for grab and 5 for touch colliders. But anyway, how does the plugin finds where should put these colliders? As you remember, when we were basically importing the mesh here, basically inside the skeleton for the left hand or the right hand, I'm going to open both so you can see. Here for the right hand, called hand R, the main bone, I have to like 2 colliders called cube grab point, 2 sockets, sorry, not colliders. And also for every finger at the fingertip, I'm having like a grab index fingertip and touch index fingertip. These are sockets. How can you add them? You basically just click like on any of these bones. These are bones in the skeleton of the mesh. And basically, once you are here, you create like an add socket. And once you do that, you could press F2, or even from here, you could rename it. I'm going to rename it from here, like my finger tip, whatever you are going to name it. Okay. Then basically you get everything from the editor. For example, if I press key W, I can move this bone to here. So this is like the location of the collider. And also if I press E, I can rotate it. If I press R, I can even scale it. When objects are attached to it, you could even scale them. But yeah, as you can see, I can like freely move these around. But I'm going to, of course, delete this because I don't need it anyway. So the thing is, like, you have to create these basically sockets for every finger if you are using your own hand model. If not, you can always basically use the one from the basic demo. As you saw, I just used those and imported them here. But anyway, you have to for every finger that requires them. Like for example, on the if you find the thumb, you see thumb has one for we call it grab thumb fingertip, touch thumb fingertip. This has one for grab, which is going to place the grab component here. Has one for touch. But for example, if you go for the pinky, pinky has only for one for touch, because as I mentioned inside the pawn, as you saw here, we had 8 colliders, 5 for touch, as you can see here, 5 fingers, and 3, one for thumb, one for basically index, and one for the middle finger. We have like grab. So that's why we only have grab on 3 fingers and have 5 touch basically sockets on all the fingers. So here we did calculate like what is the best relative location or relative rotation. Rotation is usually 0, but the location, as you can see, you select them. We did calculate the best location for those, but you might need to change this or do your own calculation. But anyway, in addition to that, I did like to the hand itself, to the root bone, I did add 2 called cube grab point, because I'm going to create a grabbable object. I want, for example, to have a cube because my cube size are different than the sphere one. So I'm going to have different attach points for different objects. For example, you could have a gun. You want the gun to be grabbed in a certain way. you could create one called gone grab point or whatever. So the number of sockets that you could create for grab is basically unlimited. You could create as many as you want, different depending on the type of your object or the size of it that you are going to grab. You are going to create different basically grab components. But anyway, let me go to asset actions because I don't want to save my changes, and I'm going to reload this. So anyway, we already did set this up for you, but you can also change the names. These are the default names that we use here. But if you use different names, once you come to the pawn here, basically not transform. Let's look it up. It's okay. As you can see here in the SenseGlove section here, I have to only type socket in the details. As you can see for the hand left, hand right, it says grab socket name. It's called, by default, it is called grab point. If you basically want, for example, want a default grab point, you just call it grab point. That's it. You add one for every object that you are going to basically touch. It's just going to use that one. Call it grab point. Okay. But for all other objects, you could like create, for example, for cube is a different one. For a sphere, you could use a different one. It just does not matter. But for the fingertip tips, it's for the sum, for the grab, it's just called grab sum fingertip. If you are going to change the socket name here, like for example, for the sum, it's called grab, I don't see the sum here. Yeah, grab sum fingertip. If you are going to, for example, make it grab sum fingertip 2, you have to also change this here to grab sum fingertip 2. That's how it knows which socket it should be looking for to place this collider. So these names here for the touch or grab, they should match the names inside your skeleton, the socket names inside your skeleton. So basically that's it. That's all you need to do, but it's a tedious task. I'm not going to do it here. That's why I just imported those basically assets from the SG Basic demo. I did it off camera. But anyway, let's go back. So now you know how to do that. But okay, how can I just like use the other ones like cube grab point or a sphere grab point? We will come into that once we are going to go through the grab component and also the touch component. But let's go back. Now we did set up our pawn, player controller, and game mod. Now, we did also set up the Quest 2 control tracker as basically controller as the wrist tracker. Now we have to basically create some grabbable object. Now we basically have to also set up our map, and it will be done without writing a single line of code. We have the grab and release functionality. So here I only created, like I did basically, if I look for player start here, you see it's like in the middle of this cube that I've created. So again, I'm going to do the same thing there. And basically, what am I gonna do is, let's press F, select this, I press F, it's going to find it for me. Now, I have this here, then I'm going to go to the window, place actors, and basically I could like drag cubes from here and basically start like resizing these and basically create my table. But what am I gonna do in order just to shorten this tutorial? I'm going to select these from here with this size. I'm gonna press Control C or copy, and I'm gonna paste them here. So now I have my table around the pawn. Okay, now I want to just quickly test it. Let me, again, my quest link went to a standby. Let's quickly launch it. Okay, now let's go to the VR preview. And just check if the table is within our reach. Yeah, I think it's good. Place is good. I can look around. And yeah, basically that's good enough. Okay, now I only have to set up the objects to be basically grab. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to basically create simple actors here. I'm going to create a blueprint class. I'm going to subclass from actor. I'm going to call it BP. Let's say simple cube. And I'm going to basically, I'm going to subclass from actor, BP, I'm going to call it simple sphere. Now, once I have that, I'm going to hit save. Okay. Then I'm going to open them, both of them. And basically, I have to add some shape to this. For the simple sphere, I'm going to call this, I'm going to click add, then a sphere. And one important thing to notice, the mesh should always be your root object. Otherwise, the grab is not going to. Right now, the root object is default scene root. I'm going to basically grab the sphere, make the sphere the root object. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Please keep this in mind. Okay. Now, I'm going to add a cube to the basically cube actor. And okay, now I have a cube and I have a sphere. And now I'm going to scale them down. Like now it's around 1 meter, which is too much. So I'm going to 0.1 make them 10 centimeters, which is good, I guess. And also I'm going to do the same thing. 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter, every direction, compile, save, compile, save. And I'm going to basically create a material. Let's create a new material. Let's call it M. Assign some color to it. I'm going to promote this variable for the base color. Okay, this is compile. Yes, we have to set the alt as well. Going to save it. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back to my blueprint because I don't want them to be white, the same as the table. And yeah, I think now everything is fine. Now, once we have that, now if I'm going to go back inside the game, VR preview, basically, oh, and the glove is running out of battery. USB port before we proceed. Okay. Now, let's go back. Okay. Now I have my hand. I can basically use the hand. But let's drop some of these grabbable objects in. I'll move them to the air, press the End key to just basically Okay. It's a bit too far from the bridge. Okay, now let's go back to the VR preview mode. And I want to basically interact with this, but I cannot, and my hand goes through them, as you can see. So I cannot interact with them. Why? Because they need touch and basically grab components to be added to them. If I go back to the simple cube and here press add, I'm going to basically add a SG touch component. And also, again, I'm going to click on the cube, which is the root, or SG also grab component. Grab is, of course, for the grab detection, and touch is for force feedback and buzz detection. I will do the same thing here. I'm going to click on the sphere, SG touch, and basically I'm going to add a SG grab. And okay, now if I go to the settings for the touch, by default, it's just going to apply force feedback because the buzz level is basically set to 0. But I'm going, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to make it 100. And also the force feedback, I'm going to put it to maximum. For example, if you want to pick up the rock, you could set the force feedback to maximum because it's really rigid and hard. But for example, if you grab something that is softer, you could put this to 50, to 20, to 30, whatever you think the amount of pressure the user should feel during the first force feedback. But 100 is the maximum. And the buzz command also is like a vibration on the fingers. And also it has a duration. This is actually for 1/4 of a second, or like 250 milliseconds. I'm going to make this basically for half a second, 0.5, so you can clearly basically feel it. I'm going to do the same thing on the SG touch, 100 for the buzz. You can always experiment with this and see it for yourself, how it's going to affect the user's interaction. And also the force feedback, it's again 100 for the sphere. And also for the grab, as you can see, there are some settings here. I recommend like keep them as default. Also, there are other like affect the physics state, which is going to turn off simulate physics and things like that. Keep this as default. These are just here to give you more control if you know what are you doing. These are basically the same thing as the Unreal attach to component blueprint node. If you look it up, you could always basically for the even the detachment, these are like on the Unreal Engine documentation. If you come here, basically write Unreal attach to component. And if you come here, basically you always see the documentation with the attachment rules and everything. So for example, if you click on the attachment rules, you will always give it will give you a nice description of what these are. And yeah, basically for detachment, it's the same thing. Anyway, let's go back. But here, everything is kept to default. Here is the socket name that we were talking about. Like if you go to a skeleton, there was a default socket name. It was called grab point. But now there's like a cube grab point. There's now a sphere grab point. I'm going to press F2, Control C. And for the cube on the grab component, I'm going to say attach it to the cube grab point. This is the name of the socket on the hand. If you have a gun, you want to put it in different position. As I said, you create like a grab point for the gun here. And inside the basically grab component for the gun, inside this attachment socket name, you are going to give it that name. Again, for the sphere, I'm going to copy that. And inside this, I'm going to basically name this like the sphere grab, and I'm going to compile a basic table. I'm going to save the skeleton, but the rest I can set actions. But anyway, now I think everything should be working as expected. Again, wear my glove and okay, let's go back to the game. It works. I have to disconnect the USB because the cable is short. Okay, now I can feel it and I can touch it and I can basically grab the object using the touch component. I was going to get the force feedback and the buzz once I was touching the object, and now I did grab it. Basically, I can drop that one and basically grab this one. As you can see, we didn't even wrote a single blueprint node for C++ code, and we are able to basically touch objects, release them, grab them, everything is working. Now, there are, of course, more you can do with the plugin, but this was the basic grab release functionality along with the force feedback and buzz command. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Okay, this is an addition to the original video because I forgot to tell you how you can check which version of the plugin you are using. In order to do that, you have two ways. One would be simply running your project with the plugin enabled. And if you go to the edit menu, then you go to the plugins section and search for SenseGlove. Here, you can see the version we are using at the moment, because sometimes it's even possible that you have the plugin installed inside your engine directory through a pick launcher, and also you have one that you've grabbed from basically Microsoft Azure, and you don't know which version is in use. It's always like this. You can check it from here. And also it's possible if you go to your projects directory, and if you go to plugins and inside the SenseGlove directory, which is where the plugin is resided. If you right click on the U plugin file, SenseGlove.u plugin, you can always see the version here. So that's how to check which version of the plugin you are using.